It's funny how silence from your family hurts louder than any insult. My name's Harper Lewis. I'm 29 years old, a marketing analyst working from my small apartment in Chicago. My days are quiet, just me, my laptop, and the hum of the city through double-paned glass. But there's a different kind of silence that never stopped echoing. The silence that started when my sister, Nicole, blocked me from the family group chat. It happened after one stupid argument about pulling my weight. I remember her tone, sweet but sharp, as she said, "You don't contribute like the rest of us, Harper." Then click, just like that. I was gone. No messages, no updates, no family. The worst part wasn't her. It was Mom and Dad. They didn't say a word. They just kept talking to her, posting photos, laughing in that chat while pretending nothing had changed. At Nicole's baby shower, I stood by the dessert table holding a wrapped gift, while everyone else laughed about jokes and stories I wasn't part of. I didn't belong, not even to my own family. I left early that day, walking through the rain, promising myself I'd never need them again. Months passed. Then tonight, my phone lit up. Nicole Lewis. The preview said, "Hey, need to talk. It's urgent." I just stared at the screen. When she blocked me, I was invisible. When she unblocked me, I became her last option. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, because sometimes silence speaks louder than love. People don't apologize out of love. They do it out of fear. That was the first thought that crossed my mind when Nicole's name flashed across my phone. For a moment, I almost didn't answer. Part of me wanted to watch it ring out, let her sit in the same silence she once handed me. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. "Hey," I said finally, keeping my tone neutral. Her voice trembled on the other end. "Harper. Hi. It's been a while." Understatement of the year. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the rain streaking down the window. "Yeah, it has." There was a pause, long, heavy, almost rehearsed. Then came a sigh that didn't sound like guilt, but desperation. "I wouldn't call if it wasn't serious. Things have been bad lately. Really bad." I didn't respond right away. Nicole was the type of person who curated her life like a highlight reel. The perfect husband, the smiling baby, the house with the white porch she bragged about on Instagram. Hearing her voice crack now felt unreal. "I lost 3 clients this quarter," she said, almost whispering. "The market's been awful, and Ryan, well, he's thinking about moving out. The mortgage is behind, and the bank's sending letters." I blinked slowly, letting her words sink in. My big sister, the golden one, the one who told me I'd never understand responsibility, was unraveling. "That sounds tough," I said quietly. I didn't mean it to sound cold, but there was a layer of truth I couldn't mask. She caught it immediately. "You don't have to sound smug, Harper." "I'm not," I said, but she didn't believe me. Maybe I didn't believe me either. The silence stretched again. Then her voice softened, the kind of tone she used when she wanted something. "You still do that finance stuff, right? Budgeting, loans, all that?" "Marketing," I corrected, though I'd helped a few coworkers with budgets before. "Right," she murmured, pretending to remember. "You're good with numbers, though. Better than me. I need help. Just for a little while. If I don't figure this out soon, they'll take the house." There it was. Not an apology. A request. I looked around my apartment. Small, quiet, safe. Paid for with my own savings. No handouts. No lies. It wasn't much, but it was mine. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "Please," she added quickly, panic bleeding through her voice. I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. That was the truth, at least. Nicole only called when every other option was gone. As the call ended, I sat staring at my reflection in the dark window, rain streaking like cracks down the glass. My sister had blocked me when her life was perfect. Now she was calling because hers was falling apart, and I couldn't tell yet if that made me pity her or enjoy it. After 8 months of silence, I was suddenly back in the chat. It happened on a Tuesday morning, just another quiet day at my desk, coffee going cold beside my keyboard. A small notification popped up on my phone. "You've been added to Lewis Family Chat." For a second, I froze. My stomach flipped, like I'd just been pulled into a group I'd already quit on purpose. The first message came almost instantly, from Mom. "Harper, so glad to have you back." Back? I wanted to laugh, as if I'd gone on vacation and just decided to return. Then came another. Nicole. "Hey. Sorry about everything before. Been crazy times." Crazy times? That's what she called 8 months of ghosting me like I didn't exist? Dad followed, with a thumbs-up emoji, because that's all he ever contributes. Digital approval without meaning. It was surreal. My family, the same people who'd erased me from every conversation, now acted like I'd never been gone. There were no apologies, just tone. A mix of pity and convenience, sugar-coated manipulation. Nicole sent a photo of the net room, staged perfectly, but the background told the truth. The furniture was gone. The baby's toys were scattered, boxes everywhere. "Moving some stuff around," she captioned it. Translation: "I'm in trouble, but let's make it look casual." I didn't reply. I watched the typing bubbles flash and disappear. Mom sent another message. "Your sister's been under so much stress lately. She's doing her best." Of course she was. Nicole was always doing her best, even when she wasn't doing anything at all. Then came the guilt trip, dressed up as motherly concern. "Be nice, Harper. Your sister's going through a lot." That line sat heavily on my screen. Be nice. Not because she deserved it, but because that was my role. The quiet daughter, the reasonable one, the fixer. I stared at their messages, my chest tightening. They weren't reaching out to reconnect. They were rebuilding the stage for another family performance, and this time, I was the prop. I typed a short reply. "Glad everyone's okay." Sent it. Put the phone face down. My hands shook slightly as I returned to my work. But my mind stayed trapped in that chat, the digital noise of people pretending everything was fine when it never had been. Outside, the city hummed, indifferent and free, everything my family wasn't. And as another good morning meme from Dad lit up the screen, I realized something chilling. When they blocked me, I felt forgotten. When they brought me back, I realized I was never gone, just kept on standby, waiting for the next favor. And this time, I wasn't sure I'd play the part they wanted. Helping her meant digging through lies. Nicole had emailed me a folder labeled Mortgage Docs. No explanation, no greeting. Just an attachment full of financial chaos waiting to be opened. I poured a cup of coffee, took a breath, and clicked. The first thing I saw was a spreadsheet full of overdue payments, overdraft fees, and interest charges that made my stomach twist. Half the entries were highlighted in red. The other half was blank, like she'd just given up halfway through pretending she was organized. Then came the tax returns, or what I thought were tax returns. 2 years were missing entirely, and the ones she'd submitted looked off. Rounded numbers, perfect symmetry, like someone who didn't understand accounting but wanted to fake it for an audience. I scrolled further and found multiple credit card statements. Designer clothes, spa weekends, private dinners, all charged on accounts. One late payment away from collapse. Her lavish lifestyle wasn't a success. It was debt-wearing lipstick. Every line I read pulled me further into her mess. My chest tightened as I realized she hadn't been struggling for a month or two. She'd been sinking for years. Nicole's voice echoed in my head from our last call. I just need a little help. It's temporary. No, it wasn't. It was structural. I grabbed my notebook and started jotting down inconsistencies. 2 payment transfers didn't add up. One listed an unknown routing number, something connected to an account outside her bank. I opened her investments folder next. It wasn't investments at all. It was a series of PayPal transfers and Venmo payments labeled consulting fees and miscellaneous business income. Except, every sender name was blurred. I felt my pulse pick up. Okay, Nicole, I whispered. What game are you playing? Then I found it, a PDF titled Hart Property Holdings. It wasn't her company. I knew that name. It was our mother's. The document showed a steady series of transfers, small amounts at first, then larger. Money moving every few weeks like clockwork, straight from Nicole's personal account into one under our mom's name. It didn't make sense. Mom was retired. She lived modestly, claimed she didn't even understand online banking. So why was Nicole funneling money to her? I scrolled to the bottom, and one final transfer stood out. $1,400. My fingers hovered over my keyboard. I took a screenshot before calling Nicole. She answered on the second ring, voice too cheerful, too quick. Hey, you're looking through everything, right? It's bad, I know. Nicole, I interrupted, my voice steady but low. Whose account is this? The one under Mom's name? There was a pause, a long one. Then her voice dropped. Harper, don't go looking for things you won't understand. The line went dead. I stared at the screen, the silence stretching between us like a threat. She wanted my help, but she'd just confirmed what I already suspected. This wasn't about saving her house. It was about covering up something she didn't want me to find. Blood doesn't mean honesty. The next evening, I drove to my parents' house. The same white-trimmed colonial I grew up in. The one that always looked warm from the outside, but cold the moment you stepped in. Mom was in the kitchen, still in her floral apron, humming to some old 80s song as if nothing in the world could be wrong. I didn't bother with small talk. Mom, I need to ask you something. She turned, smiling too widely. Of course, honey. What's wrong? I opened my laptop on the counter and pulled up the document. Hart Property Holdings. This account, I said, tapping the screen. Why is your name on it? Her smile faltered. Oh, that. Nicole mentioned you might find that. It's just a small thing. She needed some help moving funds around for a project. Moving funds? I repeated. Mom, this looks like she's been transferring money into your name for months. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, avoiding my eyes. You're overreacting, Harper. Your sister just needed a little privacy with her business. You know how judgmental people can be. Privacy. That was a new word for hiding fraud. Mom, she's drowning in debt, I said. She's been forging statements. And if any of these links back to my name? Mom's voice snapped sharply. Don't start, Harper. Your sister's been under enough stress. She just needs time to sort things out. I stared at her, disbelief twisting in my chest. You're protecting her again. You always do. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She's family. So am I said quietly. She didn't answer. She just turned back to the sink, scrubbing an already clean plate as if the conversation could be rinsed away. That was the moment I saw it clearly. Every time Nicole lied, Mom cushioned the fall. Every time I told the truth, I was difficult. My role in this family wasn't to be believed. It was to be silent. I closed my laptop and left without another word. Back home, I called Ethan, my coworker, the only person I trusted enough to tell the truth to. After listening in silence, he finally said, Harper, if they used your information for any of that, you can press charges. The words hung in the air like something heavy and dangerous. I hadn't thought about pressing charges. Not against my family, not yet. But maybe that's what it would take for them to finally hear me. Not as their quiet daughter, but as someone they couldn't ignore anymore. Turns out my name was on the debt I never took. It started with an email from the bank, one of those cold automated reminders about payment due. Except it wasn't my account. Different number, different loan. But my name was right there, clear as daylight. Harper Lewis, co-signer. For a moment I thought it was a glitch, maybe a system error or identity mix-up. But when I clicked into the document, my stomach dropped. There it was, my old digital signature, the one I'd only ever used for work contracts. Nicole. She'd taken out a family-backed loan for $75,000 using my name as a co-signer. I could almost hear her voice justifying it. "It's just paperwork, Harp. You're good with money. No one will question it." Except this wasn't paperwork. It was fraud. I sat there staring at the screen, the hum of my computer growing louder, like the world was mocking me. The loan was 3 months overdue, and if she defaulted, I'd be liable. I opened my notes, typing the numbers down, trying to breathe. The signatures matched perfectly. Same slant, same loop, same pressure points. She'd copied me. Not sloppily either. She'd practiced. When I called the bank to verify, the manager on the line said, "Yes, Ms. Lewis, this loan was approved with your co-authorization. It's secured by your credit." "My what?" He hesitated. "Ma'am, are you saying you didn't approve this?" I could hear my pulse in my ears. "No," I said, steady but trembling. "I absolutely did not." The call ended with him saying someone from fraud prevention would reach out. Fraud prevention. The phrase made my throat tighten. My own sister had turned me into a liability. I grabbed my phone and called Nicole. She picked up on the third ring. "Hey," she said, pretending everything was fine. "Did you use my name for a loan?" I asked. Silence. Then the sound of her exhaling. "Oh my God, Harper, it's not a big deal. It's just a temporary fix. I'll pay it off soon." "You forged my signature," I cut in. "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "You always overreact. Nicole, this is criminal. You could ruin both of us." Then her voice dropped, venomous and low. "If you ruin this for me, I'll tell everyone your depression phase was fake. Remember that? When you couldn't get out of bed and made Mom cry? You really want people to hear my version of that story." My hand tightened around the phone. She hung up before I could speak. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just angry, I was terrified. Because this wasn't family drama anymore. It was war, and my name was already on the weapon. Justice sounds simple until it's your family. I met Ethan the next morning at a coffee shop near our office, one of those quiet places where the espresso smells stronger than people's intentions. He was already there when I arrived. 2 cups on the table, laptop open, jaw set in that way he had when he was trying not to say "I told you so." I slid into the seat across from him, the exhaustion probably written all over my face. "You were right," I said, pulling out my phone and showing him the forged document. He scanned it, eyes narrowing. "That's not a casual mistake. That's deliberate." "Yeah," I whispered. My sister turned me into her collateral. He took a sip of coffee, then leaned forward. "Okay, listen. You need to protect yourself. This isn't about family anymore. It's about liability. If she defaults, the bank comes for you, not her. I can't just press charges against my own sister," I said, almost laughing from the absurdity of it. "What would that even do to my parents?" Ethan sighed. "What she did is already destroying your family, Harper. You're just the only one willing to look at it." I stared out the window, watching cars blur through the glass. I wanted to believe there was a version of this where I could fix things quietly, where Nicole would apologize, pay it back, and we'd all move on like the family Christmas photo we used to fake every year. But deep down, I knew that version of us died a long time ago. Ethan reached into his bag and pulled out a small notepad. "I know someone at the bank," he said. "Fraud investigation. If you let me, I can have her confirm whether Nicole used your credit history anywhere else." I blinked. "Anywhere else?" He nodded slowly. "Harper, people who do this once rarely stop at once. They test boundaries. If she had access to your info, she could have opened cards, accounts, maybe even tax filings under your name." My chest tightened. The idea that my own sister might have been using my identity my whole life, as a financial disguise, made my skin crawl. Ethan's voice softened. "You don't owe her protection. You owe yourself safety." For a long time I said nothing, just traced the rim of my cup with my finger, feeling the heat fade from it. I thought about every time Nicole had said I was too serious, every time Mom had told me to forgive and forget. All those moments I stayed quiet just to keep the peace. But peace built on lies was just silence with better lighting. Finally, I looked up at Ethan and said, "Get me her contact." The investigator. He nodded once. "You're doing the right thing." Maybe. But as I left the cafe, the weight in my chest didn't feel like relief. It felt like grief. The kind that comes from realizing family isn't always safe. I walked to my car, opened my notes, and wrote down one line before I forgot it. If my own sister forged my name, what else did she take? Sometimes you fight fire by freezing it. The call with the fraud investigator was brief, almost anticlimactic. After verifying my ID and walking me through the process, she said calmly, "We can flag the account today. Once confirmed, we'll freeze all associated access." "Even hers?" I asked, trying not to sound as eager as I felt. "Especially hers," she said. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear this time, but from something sharper. Control. For the first time in months, I wasn't just reacting. I was taking something back. By noon, the notification came through. Account frozen. Pending review. I didn't have to wait long for the explosion. At 12:07 p.m., my phone started buzzing nonstop. Nicole's name flashing across the screen, her messages spilling into the family group chat. The same one I'd been blocked from for 8 months. "Nicole, did you seriously freeze my bank account?" "Nicole, you're jealous because I had the life you couldn't handle." "Nicole, you're heartless. Dad's ashamed of you." The words blurred together, mean and familiar. Then Mom chimed in softly but poisonously. "Mom, Harper, honey, we could have handled this quietly." Handled it quietly. That was their family motto, wasn't it? Sweep, smile, repeat. I stared at the screen until the words became meaningless pixels. I wanted to throw the phone, to scream, to defend myself. But I didn't. Instead, I typed one message. "Me, I froze my name, not your account." Then I muted the chat. 5 minutes later, a private message appeared. "Dad." I hesitated before opening it, half expecting disappointment, half hoping for something like support. "Dad, you've made your point. Don't embarrass your sister publicly." That one line hit harder than all of Nicole's insults combined. I stared at it for a long time. Embarrass her? I thought. No, she embarrassed me when she stole from me, lied about me, and made me the family scapegoat. But what he really meant was, don't upset the balance. Don't disturb the fragile illusion that our family was functional, decent, and loving. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because for the first time I realized something I'd never dared admit before. My family didn't want peace. They wanted silence. And I was finally done giving it to them. They wanted peace. I wanted the truth. When Mom invited me to dinner, she used that same brittle voice she always did when pretending everything was fine. "Just a quiet family evening," she'd said. "Let's talk things out like adults." I almost didn't go. But something in me, call it curiosity, call it exhaustion, needed to see what their version of peace looked like. The house smelled like pot roast and tension. Nicole was already at the table, perfectly dressed as always, her smile stretched tight as piano wire. Dad sat at the head, pretending to read something on his phone. "Harper," Mom greeted, setting down another plate. "You look tired." "Been busy cleaning up someone else's mess," I said, taking my seat. Nicole's fork clinked against her glass. "If this is about the bank thing, you really overreacted." "It's family money, not a crime." I laughed, short, humorless. "Identity fraud isn't family money, Nicole." "Stop exaggerating," Mom cut in quickly. "You two are sisters. Mistakes happen." I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder Ethan helped me print earlier, and slid it across the table. "You mean these kinds of mistakes?" Nicole's hand froze halfway to her glass. The document spread like evidence in a courtroom. The forged signatures, the fake loan records, the bank's freeze notice with my name stamped across it. Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Harper, this isn't necessary." I looked at him. "Isn't it?" "Because it's the only language any of you understand. Proof." Nicole's voice trembled, then hardened. "You think you're so perfect. Always the victim. Maybe you should ask Dad why this happened in the first place." "Nicole!" Mom hissed. "Don't!" But she was already standing, her eyes wild, mascara cracking under the heat. "You want the truth?" she shouted. "Fine. Dad told me to use your name. He said you owed us after everything he paid for when you dropped out. The room went still. Dad's face drained of color, his hand tightening on the edge of the table. Nicole, that's not what I— Oh, save it! She snapped. You said she owed the family for being a burden. You said she should finally contribute. My heart hammered in my chest, but my voice stayed calm. Too calm. So this wasn't just her idea. It was yours. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence, the kind that tells you everything you ever needed to know. I gathered the papers slowly, one by one, my fingers steady. You didn't just steal my name, I said quietly. You stole my trust. And then I stood up, pushing back the chair. Enjoyed dinner. It's the last meal I'll ever eat at this table. As I walked out, Mom called after me, her voice small and breaking, but I didn't look back, because finally, I wasn't the one pretending anymore. The worst betrayal comes with good intentions. The next morning, my father showed up at my apartment, something he hadn't done in years. No warning, no text, just his knock, slow and deliberate, like a man coming to confess a crime he still didn't think was wrong. When I opened the door, he stood there holding a grocery bag, as if bringing peace offerings could erase everything. Thought you might not be eating properly, he said. Don't, I replied flatly. You don't get to start with kindness. He sighed, stepping past me anyway, setting the bag on the counter. Harper, I didn't come here to fight. Then why did you come? He hesitated, looking around my apartment like it was foreign territory. I wanted to explain. I crossed my arms. Explain why you told Nicole to forge my name? His jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like. He rubbed his face, pacing. Your sister was drowning. Her husband had left, the house payments were behind, and your mother was terrified she'd lose everything. We were trying to keep the family from falling apart. I stared at him, disbelief and anger boiling together. So you thought stealing my identity would keep us together? He looked at me then, and for a brief moment, I saw guilt flicker behind his eyes. Small, fragile, almost human. I told Nicole to use your name temporarily, he said quietly. Just to get approved. I thought we'd fix it before you ever found out. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound. That's not family unity, Dad. That's fraud dressed as love. He stepped closer, voice pleading. Harper, we did it for all of us. You've always been the strong one, responsible, stable. We knew you could handle it. Handle what? I snapped. Being betrayed by the people I would have given anything for? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence stretched like a wall between us. Years of pretending, of trying to be the good daughter, of cleaning up their messes, all of it collapsed in that one breathless pause. I shook my head slowly. You know what the saddest part is? I would have helped her, legally, honestly. You just didn't trust me to. He finally looked down, the weight of shame bending him. I thought I was protecting the family. No, I said, voice breaking but steady. You were protecting her. He reached for my shoulder. Harper, I stepped back. Don't. For a moment, we just stood there, a father who'd justified betrayal, and a daughter who'd stopped forgiving it. Finally, I said the only thing that mattered. If unity means lying, stealing, and breaking the one person who actually cared about this family, then unity means nothing, because none of you ever saw me as family. He didn't argue. He just left, shoulders slumped, grocery bag forgotten on the counter. And for the first time, I didn't feel empty. I felt free. I didn't want revenge. I wanted freedom. Ethan's contact at the bank worked faster than I expected. 2 days after the confrontation dinner, an envelope arrived by courier, sealed with the attorney's firm stamp. Inside was the kind of justice that didn't scream. It just documented. The letter stated, in precise legal language, that my name had been used without authorization. The forged signatures were confirmed, my liability removed, and Nicole's loan now sat solely under her credit. Clean, final, official. I stared at the paper for a long time, tracing the embossed header with my thumb. It wasn't joy I felt, just relief, like I could finally breathe without guilt that didn't belong to me. Ethan dropped by later that evening with takeout and a small grin. You're cleared. Completely. I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. So, it's over. He shrugged. For you, yeah. For them? Probably just starting. He was right. By the next morning, the fallout had begun. Nicole's credit was frozen, her mortgage revoked, and whispers started circling through the community, the same people who once called her the perfect daughter. The family's reputation, polished for years like a trophy, cracked overnight. Mom tried calling twice. I ignored both. But the third time, I answered, maybe out of habit, maybe out of pity. Her voice broke through the line, small and trembling. "Harper, what did you do?" "They're saying Nicole's accounts are frozen, and the papers are calling about an investigation." "I didn't do anything, Mom," I said quietly. "I just told the truth." She started sobbing. "You destroyed us. Your sister's life, your father's reputation." I closed my eyes, pressing my thumb against the bridge of my nose. "No, Mom," I said, voice steady. "You destroyed yourselves when you taught Nicole that I didn't matter. When you let her believe she could take, and I'd just forgive it." The silence on the other end wasn't grief. It was a shock, the sound of a lie dying slowly. Finally, she whispered, "You sound just like your father." I almost laughed. Then maybe that's why he came clean too late. I hung up before she could say more. The letter sat on my desk, catching the late afternoon light. For the first time, the reflection in the glass didn't look like someone's shadow. It looked like me. Silence isn't peace, it's punishment. The family group chat had been quiet for 3 days. No texts, no photos, no half-hearted apologies pretending to mend what they'd broken. Just blank space. Once upon a time, that silence would have eaten me alive. I would have replayed every argument, every accusation, wondering if I'd gone too far. But not anymore. That morning, I opened the chat, stared at the empty bubble next to family, and hit delete. No hesitation. No second thoughts. Just the clean click of release. I expected to feel guilty. Instead, I felt light. Like I'd finally stopped begging for a seat at a table that was never mine to begin with. I spent the day differently, music on, windows open, cooking for myself instead of waiting for anyone's call. Ethan texted me a photo of coffee and his usual dry humor. "You survived the storm. Now what's next?" I smiled at my screen. "Maybe peace," I typed back. The kind that doesn't depend on who texts first. By evening, I'd almost forgotten about the world that used to revolve around my family's validation. But the universe has a way of reminding you that closure rarely comes quietly. A notification popped up, not a message this time, but a tag. Nicole had posted on social media for the first time since the fallout. Her words were cryptic, bitter, dripping with venom. She didn't dare to say directly, "Funny how karma wears your sister's face." The comments were already flooding in, sympathy from people who didn't know the truth, vague hearts and prayers, half gossip, half pity. I stared at the post for a moment, the old familiar ache pressing at my ribs. Then I closed the app, because for once, I didn't need to defend myself. The truth had already done it for me. That night I sat by the window, city lights flickering against the glass. For the first time in years, the reflection staring back wasn't waiting for approval, or forgiveness, or closure. She was simply free. And silence, I realized, could finally mean peace when it was mine to choose. This time the text didn't sting. It satisfied. It came early in the morning, right as sunlight crept through my blinds and painted my apartment gold. I reached for my phone half asleep, expecting another spam notification or Ethan's usual coffee or chaos. Text. But it was her. Nicole Lewis. I hadn't seen that name light up my screen in months. My thumb hovered over it before I opened it, the way you touch a scar just to see if it still hurts. I sold the house. Paid everything back. I'm sorry. No emojis, no excuses. Just 3 sentences that arrived years too late. For a moment, I just stared at it, not angry, not sad, just done. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because when she blocked me, I thought she'd silenced me. But the truth was, she'd freed me from chasing the love I could never earn. I set the phone down, opened my laptop, and logged into a page that had become my new life's work, Reclaim Her Credit. What started as a small idea scribbled in my notebook had turned into a program helping women recover from financial manipulation and family control. Workshops, resources, and a hotline all built from what nearly destroyed me. Every woman I met had the same story in different words. A husband who drained her savings for their future. A parent who used her name for help. A partner who said, "Trust me." Now I helped them trust themselves. Ethan helped set up the nonprofit paperwork, insisting on naming me the founder. "You turned pain into policy," he said once. I'd laughed then, but now I understood what he meant. I read Nicole's text again. It didn't ache like it used to. It didn't demand closure or forgiveness. It was just proof that consequences eventually find their way home, no matter how long they take. I deleted the message without replying. My phone buzzed again, but I ignored it. Outside, the city hummed with traffic, laughter, and life moving on. And so was I. I brewed coffee, opened my calendar, and smiled at the meeting reminder. Reclaim her credit. First public launch event, downtown Chicago. Dad hadn't shown up since that day at my apartment. Mom sent one short message once. I hope you're happy. I never replied, because happiness wasn't the point. Freedom was, and I had it. I glanced once more at the quiet screen, where no apologies waited to be answered. My sister blocked me to silence me, but when she needed saving, I was already free. And if you've ever been underestimated by your own family, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because your silence might just be your power.